microphone, or can you guys hear it okay? They told me in the last group that there was both ears, and
We're good.
I just think I have a big enough mouth usually that I don't need that. At least that's what my dad always told me. All right, so I ran a little short last time, so I'm going to get through this.
All right, you cruise.
So let's pray first and we'll get going. Father, we just thank you so much for the time that we have just to be able to learn more about your world, the way that you create things, the way that you make people, and how we can be challenged into even doing better than what we already are. So we just pray that minds and hearts will be open as we go through the next 40 minutes, and that we can walk out of here just knowing something a little bit different, a little bit better, and be able to take it back into the classrooms. So we just thank you for this time, and I'll just pray in your name. Amen. All right, so from pasture to pavement. That's what I am calling it, because that basically is a small way to talk about my life. So first we need to have some rules of engagement, because it's going to be a little different probably than what it is. So the first one is you have to try to get out of your own head. We all have ideas and concepts and things that we were raised with, things that the country has, or the media has put in our heads, but that doesn't mean it's accurate or it's true. And so we need to be able to get out of our own heads and be open. Be okay with being uncomfortable. In the next 40 minutes, you may feel at times like you're hugging a cactus. It's okay. You should feel that way, because it's going to be stretching for some. Instead of thinking, that's not true or that's wrong, think maybe, what if that is true? What if the way I was thinking about it all these years is not the way I should be thinking about it? And be brave. When it's uncomfortable, it's easy to run. It's easy to shut down. It's easy to block things out. But don't run, lean into it. That's how you grow. So I grew up out in the middle of nowhere, basically. Middleton is right in the middle of the Lower Peninsula. The diner, which it says Middleton Diner on it. If you have not been to the Middleton Diner, it is worth the hour and 15-minute drive. It has been there for as long as I've known. It is actually known. People come from all over to go there to eat. It's like a home-cooked meal every time you go there. And if you go on a Sunday morning, you'll probably see my dad eating drinking coffee with the old guys. So just in Middleton, our demographics, 96% of the people there are U.S. born. I don't believe that. I believe it's 100%. From where I grew up. I don't know who the 2.6% is in that area. And the racial breakdown, it says 72% are white. Out of the 24 years I lived in the area, I never saw a person that did not look like me. So I'm not sure where the 24% of two races or more is coming from. Maybe if the migrant workers are there and they did the census or something, I don't know. But like I said, 24 years and I've never seen anybody that doesn't look like me. So this is where I first lived, on a dairy farm. This is actually a more recent picture. We did have cows in the back there. But you can see there's not a house anywhere close. Then we moved to this, which is an aerial view. So we had 100 acres there. It was just 4 miles away from the first house. And to give you a concept of how big an acre is, one football field is not even the size of a full acre. And we had 100 acres around the house. So the green that you see right there in the middle, that's what my parents have to this day. The other 90 acres have been bought off by a farmer. But if you'll notice, my dad strategically took the 10 acres and put their house right in the middle of it so that nobody could build close. He would not enjoy looking out his kitchen window and seeing somebody else's kitchen right across the driveway. So he made sure that nobody was going to build right next to him. One of the dairy farms in my hometown, just one, has 3,800 cows in it. I've always said that there are more cows in my hometown than what there are people, but I never had numbers to actually prove it. I looked them up. Our population is 842 people. Just one farm has the 3,800 cows. And they milk 3 times a day, and they can do 72 at a time because of that circular milking contraption at the bottom. The cows will go on. They'll start getting milked when they get on, and they go all the way around. And by the time they get to the exit point, they're done milking. And the milkers drop off, and then the next cow jumps on. So they can do 72 at a time that way. So I traded the wide open spaces of the country for very cramped city life. This is where I bought a house at. If you can see division, 131, 96. It's basically the southeast side of Grand Rapids. And if you know Grand Rapids, the southeast side has a reputation. This is a little bit closer Madison is right in that middle connector thing in Hall Street. So I'm like right on the corner of it. When I've gotten stopped in the area, because I do like to drive fast, the policeman will look at me, they'll look at my driver's license and see my address, and they'll look back at me again and they're like, do you really live here? Yeah? That's not safe. Been there 16 years now. Haven't had any trouble. But I'm not stupid either. We don't go out at 11 o'clock at night and walk around the neighborhood. We've had the SWAT team bust into the house next door a couple times. I've had crime scene tape on my front pillars on my porch. Somebody was shot and killed across the street from us. It happens. But I personally have not had any issues around in my yard. So I took the crime mapping website. If you haven't been on it, it's kind of fun to check it out. So for a month between February 6th and March 6th of this year, within a mile of my home, which is the black star in the middle, that's all the crime that had happened within a month's time. When you're looking at poverty, which is what is surrounding my house, the percentage of people living under the poverty level in Grand Rapids, 22%. It's almost 1 in every 4 person. In the state of Michigan, it's 13, and in the USA, it's 10 and a half, living in poverty. And those living under 50% of the poverty level is 11% in Grand Rapids. I don't know how you survive even on the poverty level, let alone 50% of the poverty level. And this one is the percentages of the ethnicities living in poverty. You can see the Hispanic and Black are the 2 highest. White is the very far left. Native Hawaiian is the lowest one, but who would move from Hawaii to Michigan and live in Grand Rapids? So I'm not sure why that was even there, but it was a statistic. So when I grew up, or when I came to Grand Rapids, I was a white girl growing up in the country, moving to the city, jumping right into volunteering at Urban Family Ministries, which is an inner city ministry. My worldview back in 1998 is that tiny little circle right there. I didn't know anything outside of that. We did go on vacation. We had a dairy farm ourselves. When we moved out the dairy farm, we didn't have money to go on vacation. So we didn't really experience, I never went out to the state of Michigan until I was in college. Since moving down here now, my worldview has gotten much bigger. And it's even really probably bigger than that because of the countries that are involved at Potter's House and being involved at Potter's House. But it's much bigger than what it was, for sure. So the way that God works is always funny. I'm not sure 4 boys would be great. At the most, 2 girls. I'll do 2 girls. But at the most, 2. And like he usually does, he laughs at you and says, here you go. And my first 4 were girls, and they were teen girls when they moved in. So if you can imagine the hormones that we got to experience all at the same time. And then a couple years later, we added a few more people. Three years later, another 2. You guys know Onyx? This is him as a baby right here. Usually people do know Onyx because of his personality. 2020, and I want to talk about this lady right here. She's the mom to the 2 boys, the middle one and the one on the left, in the back. I've known her since that middle kid was about 2 years old. He was still in diapers at least. And after we had built the relationship, she had always said, if anything ever happens to me, get my kids. You just don't ever think anything's gonna ever happen to them, you know? I would, though, take her sometimes, drive her to ER because her blood pressure was so high, and I'm like, oof, she's not coming out this time. She's gonna stroke out. It's so bad. Terrence was at Potter's house, the one on the left, and I was standing over there by those chairs during a basketball practice. It was before we had our new gym and everything. And I got a phone call from Kent County Jail. I'm like, oh, which kid just got in trouble? Not my own, but kids in the ministry. So I answered it, and it was about her because she had gotten picked up for shoplifting. And when they searched her, she had 15 little envelopes of heroin on her person. So she was put in jail. Then when she went through the whole process, she ended up with a year in prison. If you've never visited anyone in prison, it is an experience. Just getting into the prison is an experience. But I would take the boys down. Went down because the only women's prison in Michigan is in Ypsilanti. So we went down a couple times just to visit her so that the boys could connect with her. And then she gets out on December 11th in Michigan. They give her a bus ticket in Ypsilanti and say, here you go, get back home. Hands off at that point. She lost her house, she lost her Section 8, she lost her job. Her kids were living with me. What am I supposed to do? What is she supposed to do? Live in the streets in December in Michigan? Maybe in Florida would be okay, but in Michigan? So she ended up moving in with me. She was good for about a month, and then she started to get back into the habit of the drugs and using again. I would know because she would be gone for days at a time. We never had talked about it, but I know that that's exactly what she was doing. And thankfully, she respected me enough that she did not bring the drugs to my house. But she would call and check on the boys, wouldn't tell me where she was or what she was doing, and I was okay with that. Just be mom to the boys, because you're home. And then about 8 months later, she must have had to go in for a probation check and do a drop, and they found drugs. So they put her back in for 3 months. So after that 3-month stint, she's been clean and sober ever since. She lived with me for about 12 years. She's been on her own now for a year and a half, working for ICCF, has her own apartment, has her own things, has her car, just doing extremely well. Speaks quite often to different places at church, just about how you can get out of the cycle of drugs. So I'm just very, very proud of her. And then this was our final, or our latest, not our final, but our latest family picture. We're due for another one again, but this is what I call my hard-fought hallelujah, if you know that song. Because it is not easy when you have people in and out of your life like it has been. not for me, but also not for the kids when there's different people all the time coming and going. Some of the kids that lived with me, there was 15 altogether, not at one time, but 15 over the years. Some of them stayed for 6 months. Some of them stayed for a couple of years. 3 of them I've adopted, 3 of the girls from that first picture I've adopted. And then Terrence just got married, so he's of course not living in the house. And Kirby still lives with me, but he's on it. I mean, he works and takes care of himself. So my experience has been raising 15 African American urban kids. Very different than raising white kids. There are 15 kids who have experienced trauma, 15 kids who have been separated from their bio parents, 15 kids who can still have an ongoing relationship with their sometimes toxic parent, 15 kids who have potential but feel hopeless, 15 kids who have experienced abuse of some sort, and 15 kids who have been witness to violence in different ways. Everything that I knew about raising kids, I had to throw out the window because it's not the same, even close. So the lessons that I've learned is I had to be a student first. I couldn't expect them to get to know or be involved in my white culture because that's not who they were. It's not how God created them to be white. So I had to be a student to learn their culture. Like I said, I had to throw everything I knew about parenting because I couldn't raise them the same way that I was raised. And the kids don't need to be fixed, which is something that we kind of automatically think or do. We want to fix them by helping them. And a lot of times we do more damage. Despite everything that the movies make us believe or books that you've read, love isn't always enough. You can love a kid to death. Doesn't matter. They still aren't always going to be able to make it to where you hope that they can make it. So how did I do this? I showed up. I was present. Actually see them as an individual and not as a culture or not their behavior. It's really easy to see their behavior as them because you get so frustrated. But actually see them as an individual. The fastest way that I figured out I could start building those relationships with the kids is I would have a candy bucket in my car. And I would drive around the hood, we called it, where all of our kids were living, from a program that I was part of. And literally I would have kids chasing me down the sidewalk when they would see my car go through. Because they could get one piece of candy a day, that's all they wanted. But it made that connection. It was an easy way to just kind of get started because then they'd be outside playing with their neighbor kids and the neighbor kids find out she's got candy and they would come running too. So then you just continue to build that. So you build the authentic relationships. Going too fast. You set high expectations. The kids that I worked with, all of the kids at Urban Family, we'd have about 200 of them come to our Saturday night program. They all knew that I was not going to play. You are held to a high expectation, and you will act that way. Now, I knew they weren't going to be able to do it, but I said it anyway so that they could get there. I knew that they wouldn't be able to get it in the first week, in the first month. Some of them not even for a couple of years. But I said it because they will eventually get there if you continue to set that in front of them. But you also have to drive stakes. It was the best advice I ever got when I first started at Urban. You have to drive stakes because otherwise, a year from now, you can look back and you've moved an inch. You've seen this kid grow an inch where you're hoping for 5 miles. They've grown an inch. And if you look at just that inch, you're going to be really disappointed and just, what's the point? You give up. But if you drive stakes every time that they do something positive, every time that they do something right, you drive those stakes back. When you turn back in that inch, you might have 50 stakes. And then you can be like, you know what? Yes, they have moved forward. And that's all I can expect. they have moved forward. Provide practical support. You know, at my house, for the longest time, I still have some, but I had clothes from an infant all the way up to a 13-year-old, boy and girl, at my house. Because I'd have kids every weekend. Kids would be over at my house staying with me, and they would come without clothes. They would come with dirty clothes. They would come with rips all over in them, and we would try to go to church on Sunday, and they didn't want to wear those clothes because they knew that they should be a little more dressed up for church. So just those simple things. We would make a big breakfast, and anybody who could walk to the house would walk. It was amazing, just those simple two things right there, how that changed kids' perceptions and how much they would buy into the relationship. A trusted relationship, though, has to be built first. If a student can't trust you, they're not going to work for you. And when you look at your students, what do you see? Are they smart? Are they lost? Are they hopeless? Are they just bad behavior all the time? Are they angry? Are they hyper? Or do you see them as your children, as your kids? Each one different than the next, just like if you have kids at home. No two are exactly the same. In this quote, behind every behavior is a feeling, behind every feeling is a need. When you meet that need, rather than focus on the behavior, you can begin to deal with the cause and not the symptoms. That for me was life-changing. Because when a kid starts to act, after years of reminding myself, and I still don't do it all the time, but when a kid starts to behave wrong or act out, I try to have my first thought be, what do they need? Not, I can't believe they're acting like this, get out of the office. You know, something like that. It's, what do they need? What is that underlying cause for that behavior? Students may show a lack of care because they've learned helplessness. After experiencing repeated, uncontrollable, or traumatic stressors, they just stop trying to change their environment. What's the point? This is going to be negative all the time. Even when opportunities come for them to change, they don't think it's possible. Which then causes low motivation, anxiety, depression, and just a false belief that one lacks control over their life. Relevance gap. Anybody have kids' Bibles at your house? Adult Bibles usually don't have pictures in them, so I always talk about kid Bibles. What do the angels look like in those kid Bibles?
Did you say images?
Yeah, what do they like? What do they look like? If you open up and there's an angel, what are you going to see?
White wings.
White wings. What color hair?
Blonde.
Blonde. And a man. So if I hand that Bible to my African American kids, and they see that every page that there's an angel on, what are my African American kids going to be thinking? I don't fit. Nobody cares. I'm not good enough for God even. I learned that from John Perkins at a CCDA conference that I went to. So it's the relevance gap. It's not relevant to them because it doesn't look like them. Defense mechanisms. They have to act tough just to keep those deep feelings sometimes at bay. They have the feelings of inadequacy or the shame of poverty. Nobody wants to think that they're not adequate or that they're poor. Nobody wants to admit that or come out with it. You know, you're not going to celebrate it. So they act tough, because if I act tough, nobody's going to get close to me, and they won't know the real part of me. And students often work harder for teachers if they feel genuinely like them and respect them. Not that they respect you or you like you, but if you genuinely like and respect them, they will often work harder for you. Doesn't mean that you're easy on them just because you like and respect them. Respect and trust are the biggest factors, and you don't get it, you earn it. You can't be fake with our kids, with our African American kids, well, any culture really, but you can't be fake because, especially the kids that I've worked with for 25 years, man, they will see a fake a mile away. They'll use you for whatever they can, but there's no real relationship there.
This is a very, like, ugly question.
Go for it.
What if you legitimately don't like the kid?
Yeah, that happens.
And you think you're trying to fake it to make it, and they spot it. What are some things you have done to change that?
Avoid it.
dynamic?
I've just stayed away. I'm just like, you know what? I can't.
I'm not your person.
I'm not your person. Yeah. Find them a person, but I'm not that person. I can do a little bit, but man, you and I are like oil and water, and it's not good for you or me. So we need to find you somebody that would be good with. That's a good question, though. Don't look at what the kids lack. Poverty, single parent homes, lack of stability. I just found this last night. As of 2026, just over 50% of students in Michigan are classified as economically disadvantaged. 50%. So think about your classroom, and half of those kids are under that poor label. Probably more. Start to look at what they do have. They have resilience. They have street smarts. They have determination. Find what they do well. Just keep repeating what they do well. Yes?
Where this research is from, what's their definition of economically disadvantaged?
That little number 10 up there, I have a resource page at the 10. I can get it for you.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Because that's incredible.
It is. It is. And again, drive your stakes so that you can see the progress. Make sure that they know that they're making progress. One of the things that I didn't tell the last group, but don't look at the things that they lack. At Urban Family Ministries, we started what we called the Christmas Store. I read the book. We read as a staff the book Toxic Charity. I think you guys have read it here, or some of you at least have read it here. If you need to read it, it completely flips the way that I did ministry upside down. They have our families had money. Were they all poor? Absolutely, but they had money. But they've learned that helplessness. So you've heard of the Adopt a Family program at Christmas time? Great concept, absolutely great concept. But what it does is it keeps our families at that poverty level. They continue then in that cycle of making the poverty choices. We created the Christmas Store, and we took donations. This was actually Alf Clark's idea when he worked at Urban with me. We took donations of brand new stuff. We marked it down to 5 to 10% of what the cost was. And we told the parents, you can come and shop for Christmas for your kids. I could not believe the response that we got. They loved it. Our parents loved it. It was the first time in years that some of our parents were able to shop for their kid and buy it with their money. They knew what was coming into their house, and they got to pick it for their child.
That's dignity.
Yes, exactly. We gave them the gift of dignity is kind of how we sold the idea. But they'll take. I mean, if you're going to show up with a whole carload of gifts, they're going to tuck that cash in their back pocket and, oh, thank you. And what happens then after Christmas morning, and the kid's taking a baseball bat they got and beating on the toy, the truck that they got. Mom doesn't care. Go ahead, I don't care. I didn't put any money into it. But when mom puts money into it, you beat that truck and I'm going to beat you, is what's going to be said. Because mom invested in that. Mom invested in her own kids. So back to find the positive things, things that they do well. They come to school. Now this is a little more geared probably towards high school. Because your kids, some of your kids probably can, but most of the kids probably cannot get themselves to school. Where our high school kids can ride the bus, you know, whatever, make a phone call, call a friend. But they come to school. They may not learn when they get here, and they may sleep in your class, but they're in the building. It's a step. We have no idea what they went through the night before or the morning of why they couldn't get to school on time or why they are struggling once they get to school. I had a young man, a junior in high school this morning called the school and asked for an Uber ride. He didn't have cash. He had cash, but he didn't have anything on his phone that he could actually pay for it. Plus he was under 18, so they usually don't let you. So we set up an Uber ride for him because he wanted to be at school. So we set the ride up, brought him in. He was in school within 20 minutes because he wanted to be in school. There's something to be said about that. But that's what, I mean, if he's working that hard to get to school, man, I'll match you. They have survival skills because they have to survive. Literally, that's what life is for them, is they have to survive. They have a work ethic. May not be for school homework, but they have a work ethic because a lot of times they'll have to work to be able to help support the family. And they have an enhanced threat detection. I've always said, the mom that was in the picture that I was telling you about, if I'm ever in a street fight or ever in a very uncomfortable, like, I don't know what's gonna happen here situation, I want her by my side. Over any man that I know, I want her by my side because she has got the street smarts and she can fight like there's no tomorrow. She's older than I am even. But I've seen her, she's come back to the house before after her and two of her other sisters have had a knockdown drag out, and she'll come back with a little scratch on her face. And they don't fare quite as well. And there's two of them to her one, so. So we need to be a student to our students. You have to be willing to admit your blind spots to build the bridge between. And you start with questions like, can you help me understand? Like with my kids, I would say things, once we had the relationship built, I would say things like, okay, help me understand, why do they say that black people like watermelon? How did that even start? Or why do they say that black people are scared of water? They don't know how to swim. They were able to explain it to me so I could understand it then. I'm like, okay, that makes sense, how that started. Like, anybody know what chitlins are? The pig intestines. And a lot of African Americans like to eat those. A couple of my girls do. Can't stand it when they make them in my house. But that started back during slave time, because the masters would throw out the extra garbage of the hog, and they would use whatever they could use to eat so that they had some nutrition. Say things like, I push you because the world will underestimate you and I won't let you give them a chance to for them to have an excuse. It's okay to push them. You just have to know how hard and when. So I didn't want you to just hear my words. So I asked my kids, hey, give me some things that you would like to say to teachers or that you think would be good for teachers to hear about cross-cultural relationships. So this is Cameron, this is Onyx's mom. She's a CPA and she just started her own business, The Day Ledger, in January. But here are the things that she said. Build trust by being consistent, extend grace, genuinely curious about the differences of the culture, be accountable when wrong, don't make a connection out of pity or guilt or be fake. Don't need to, because you never will, fully understand someone's culture, to have a basic understanding. My youngest, Sarah, she has a BS in exercise science. She will be done in April with her dental hygiene degree. And she says, lead with listening. The kids need someone who is willing to understand where they're coming from and build from there. Caring is important, but care also comes with patience and curiosity. I think the patience word was specifically for me, because this is the one I've struggled with. And all the gray hair, that's from this one. Trust doesn't happen overnight. Good intentions matter, but they are not the same as understanding someone's reality. They do have different experiences and life circumstances, and they get shaped differently. So you might see a behavior, but it could be just a difference in perspective or something deeper going on. My oldest, who is a nurse practitioner, when trying to connect with other cultures, educate yourself. It'll start the building blocks of interacting, engaging, and understanding the people that you're trying to connect to. Kirby, I think Miss Cisco did a great job of connecting us. She was consistent. She'd speak the same way to all the students, whether they were an A or F student, used the same mannerisms, gave the same attention span. She was genuine and didn't let the slackers get by. She knew how to call out with love, which is a huge thing too. And talk to them about things that are outside of what the schoolwork that you're doing. So I put the little asterisks in there because we don't want a school full of Ciscos. But there's something that you can put into your repertoire that will help you. Has my life been crazy? Absolutely. Have I thought about going to Pine Rest for a slight vacation? Absolutely. Final thoughts. It's going to be hard and it's going to hurt to do a crossover. And that's okay. Acknowledge that we all have biases. Mine happen to be Mini Cows and the University of Michigan, which you should all put as the winner of the March Madness bracket because they're going to take it. Realize that you have a whole team around you. You're not doing this by yourself. We are an incredibly unique school. I don't think there's anywhere around here that has, I don't think anything can compare to it. And God has placed these students in your care, in your class. Teach, but also wonder, what can I learn from them? And then resources, but I do want to leave you with, like I said, our school is very unique. And if you've taught somewhere else before you've come here, it's different. It's very different. And not all kids, this is not the right school for all kids. There will be some who start here who don't graduate from here because it just is not a good fit. But there's also sometimes maybe staff who are, the administrators thought that, you know, they were a great fit for the school because they got hired, but maybe the school isn't a good fit for them, and that's okay. Figure out where you're supposed to be, and if it's not at Potter's House, you have the blessing to go. Go and find your space. Go and find your place that you will fit. Last second questions, because there's only about a second, I think.
Did you wear those glasses because they look like cows?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Did you wear those glasses because they look like a dairy cow?
Oh, no, you know what, I just thought about it. I was gonna wear my cow shoes too. I have shoes that match my glasses.
That's awesome.
But no, these are my normal glasses.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
And how long have you been at the Potter's House besides Galen and forever?
I
You
think,
didn't really include your connections with
Yeah.
this place.
3 of my kids, well, I've graduated 5 from here, but I think this is year 14, I think, but only 3rd year full-time. So, because I worked full-time at the ministry and then worked here part-time, so, yeah.
I just didn't know if people knew that, like, part of it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Noah, how old were you when you bought your house?
When I bought my house, it was in 2010, so I'm 56 now, so 40-ish, somewhere around there. I don't do math. My math never maths, so.
You moved after school, you went back out.
I went back out to the farm. Yep. I worked at a Christian camp first, and then at the end of the summer, it was supposed to be a full-time year-round job, and then at the end of the summer, they're like, sorry, we don't have enough money to pay you for a year-round. So then I moved back to the farm. So, yeah, my long-term goal is to sell my house and move out into the country a little ways, close enough that I can get to a Meyer in like 10, 15 minutes. But out to the country where I can have a little pole barn, build a tiny house, and just enjoy the country. So, yeah.
Your 4 girls, did they all come live with you all at once, or was it a progression over that year?
One of them lived with me when her mom and Sarah, my youngest, they moved to Missouri, and the older one stayed with me when mom moved, because she was senior in high school, was valedictorian of her class, had a scholarship to Grand Valley, and if she would have moved it, she'd have lost it all. So, and then, so she lived with me for about a year, and then there's one I have that isn't in the pictures. Very, very rough situation. So she moved in for a little while, and then they just kind of kept coming, and if I had a bed open, somebody would be moving in. And right now my house is full, I probably would have moved somebody in before Christmas, so, but. All right, thanks guys.